Hello, this is RipRapYap. I am Peter Smith, and today I'm joined by
Alexis Reagan.
and our guest.
Alexa Johansen.
And very soon we will be getting another host, but she'll introduce herself when she gets here. But let's just get started with this. So we have some questions written for our lovely guest. Lexi, do you want to start us off?
I would love to. First, I'm so grateful that you're here, Alexa. It's just been long awaited, and we're just super grateful that we can sit down and chat with you because you're such a well of inspiration. So
Thank you for having
I want to
me.
start, with an icebreaker question and to ask you, what is the best writing advice you have ever personally received so far, and why?
Ooh, okay. As you know, an English major, having a couple degrees in English, I have a couple professors coming to mind, but first and foremost, what's impacted my heart and still kind of takes my breath away is something that something that God told me at the writing table. So when I write poetry, I usually just clear my mind and write, whatever I need to write. And one day what came out was write what hurts until you heal.
Wow.
And I kind of just stared back at those words and thought like, whoa, wait a second, where did that come from? But no matter when I come to the writing table, it's always me and God. This is my place for him to kind of take the pen and lead the pen, and then I just get to discover, what he's saying to me or what I'm wrestling with inward. And so he said, write what hurts until you heal. And I had a conversation with God after this. And I was like, wait a second, what? And he's like, well, because I'm with you. Because I'm with you. This is where we get to do that, is write what hurts until you heal. And I'm with you through it. The writing and the healing, and both get to happen.
That is so powerful. My goodness. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
What immediately comes to mind when you said that is I've been meditating a lot on woundedness and in Isaiah 53 it says by his wounds we are healed. So I know we both have the faith background, and I'd love to hear more about how your relationship to God has impacted that, because it fuels our writing, our purpose, but also too, like, write what. Can you say that one more time? Right?
Yes, write what hurts until you heal.
Yes, so there's healing in the midst of wounds when we grapple with them, when we allow him to heal them. So thank you for that. That is so powerful.
I think it's interesting, the idea of writing as being something therapeutic. I feel like it often is. I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be either, but I feel like most of my best writing, coming from a more secular perspective, it's that kind of idea is still true, where I feel like when I write something that I feel is good after the fact, I feel like when I was writing it, it came from a place of a very real experience that was perhaps, painful or uncomfortable in some way. When I write something that isn't great, I feel like, I don't know, this wasn't really difficult for me to write, and that's why it's not good. And you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Not that you can't have fun while doing it, and I think there is a place for writing that's more laid back, but for the writing we're talking about, I think we're talking about, I feel like that is kind of generally true.
Yeah. The other words that are coming to mind, because I think in synonyms a lot. Like, I don't know, I think writers tend to do that. Like, what are connected words? A release. Writing is a release in a lot of ways, and it's also, I heard you speaking, I feel like it's that connected to breakthrough. Like, we have to write. This is random, but Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie?
Yes, Angelina Jolie, the actress. She said in like a little clip one time that the only way to get through it is to go through it. And that never left me. So I feel like that relates to how when you write through that pain, there is such healing.
Well, I think she's an actress. That's a type of art.
Yeah,
Writing's a type of art. But I think with any kind of real art that's good, I think there is an element of confrontation as well to that end, right? Where, I don't know, kind of what was being said, but there's a confronting with some aspect of yourself or your past or what have you. And I think from that is where good writing or good art generally comes from. And I feel like that makes itself apparent usually as a reader, right? Because I feel like it's harder to see when you're in it. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everyone has their blinders on.
And even in history, we look at all the artists that were suffering and what beautiful art was emerged from that. And so, wow, I love that advice. Thank you for answering that question. My goodness. we can go into, so there's so much to know about you, Alexa, because like when I first met you, I found out about you through GoldScriptCo, which I want to give you the reins to talk all about, because you wear many hats. You have been a professor, you are a publisher, an editor, and a writer, of course. And I think we can go into the writing and education part first. And yeah, let's just dive deeper, because we're here because we're writers. So the first question was, why do you write? And what is the gift of writing to you, and how has it changed your world? So we can even just think of in anything that you have experienced in life, like why is writing so vital and important for people to engage in?
Ooh, such a big question.
I know, it's a big one. We're starting with the big ones.
I love it. Okay, so I'll start with why do I write? I love the words. I think you said release and breakthrough. For me, it's wrestling. Like I need to wrestle with things.
Like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yes, through my writing, that's my place to process. So for me, writing is for me. And as you both were kind of responding to write what hurts until you heal, I was thinking about a series of poetry that I continue to contribute to is I titled it, I wrote this for me, but also for you. Because first and foremost, I have to write for myself. Again, it's my form of processing. I wouldn't even necessarily call poetry my art form. Poetry is my processing. Poetry, like you said, is my release. It's for me. But then when I read what's on the page, I realize, it's also for anyone else who might relate to this or resonate with this. So for me, poetry is mine. What's so interesting, however, is that I would like to say and claim that I also make a really good writing coach, a really good editor for other people who are writing poetry or any, I'll take any genre. I love my job. Yes. As an editor, publisher, writing coach. So I'll take anyone else's art. I'll take anyone else's craft in writing, whether it's poetry, again, any other genre. And I can help shape that and transform that and bring out the best in that writer. But for me, it's got to be for me. I can't think of the audience, so I could do both. I don't know if that answers the full question.
Yes, it's beautiful. I feel like you just gave a twofold answer about how it's personal, but also communal.
Yeah.
And
I think I agree that writing should be something a little bit selfish. I don't know. I feel like there's also this idea that like there's some special place, like I don't want to say we as writers because I don't know, but that I don't know. Sometimes writers think they inhabit where we're I don't know, capable of expressing something, and we are because we practice at it. But I feel like something like poetry kind of should be something that everyone does, and I feel like there's an idea that not necessarily.
I agree.
That there's an idea that that's for writers to do or whatever. And then writers are like, yeah, this is for us to do. We're special.
There's no like hierarchy. Yeah.
I don't know. It is a release or what have you, right? Or some kind of thing for oneself to do to kind of express oneself. And I don't think it's fair for, have people to go their lives with thinking they can't express themselves.
A kind of catharsis. And like I understand it, like to the core what you're saying, Alexa, because I feel like it's like we all have our own personal stories and grapplings, and I love the word wrestling. I love thinking about that imagery because I do too. And it's like I can't help but say the word testimony too, because like we all have our own testimonies, but when we share them, they no longer, when they're out in the world, become just for ourselves. Like they can help contribute to other people's healing. And so, gosh, it's so good. I want to not waste any time, keep going, because there's so much to say. I know that you are a beloved alumni from Cal State Long Beach. And while we were walking to the studio, you said that the last time you were here was 2013.
Isn't that crazy?
So it's like a reunion today.
Whoa.
Wild.
How was your experience studying English here, and what was some of your biggest takeaways?
Yes. Ooh, yay. I love talking about Cal State Long Beach, let me tell you. So I moved. So I was born and raised in Sacramento area.
Oh.
And yes, I wanted to move away from home as far as I could, but within state, I ended up here. I applied to so many schools, got into, plenty, but this is where I ended up. And I'm so grateful. It's all the Lord, of course. And I could just talk on and on and on about this place. And who I got to become, who I got to step into. And
Gosh, I feel the same way about this campus. It's very special.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially about English as an English major. So I had a double emphasis of literature and creative writing, and I just came alive. It was everything I hoped for. Let me tell you, I am a bookworm through and through. A poet, and it was everything that I could have imagined. And when I think of, this place, when I think of Cal State, I think of my professors. I think of, the friends that I still keep in contact with. I think of the parts of campus that, I spent time on. But the professors coming to mind, I don't even know if they're still here, y'all. I kind of just want to take some laps.
I know we both know Patty Seaburn.
Yes, Professor Seaburn. There's Professor Diltz. And those are my two, and Professor Webb, Charles Harper Webb. And
I think, he was here. I think maybe he recently retired, but he's very well known, of course.
Yes. They were my creative writing professors. But then, I really want to know if Professor Lloyd Kermode and Professor Neil Holtgren, are they here?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
They're still here. Oh my gosh.
They're incredible.
I took Shakespeare with Kermode.
Yes, and amen you did. Of course you did, because you have to.
Oh, he's so amazing. And guess what? I'm taking, I believe, their husband and wife, I'm taking Van Elk for late Renaissance right now. And it's life-changing.
I am so okay, honestly, I got to catch you up, because while
I don't know what's going on at all. I'm in the dark.
Side note, he got accepted to the MFA program.
Shut
so he's
up.
coming into this fall.
Congratulations.
Thank
what
you.
the heck?
Thank
yes. You. Oh my gosh. I love this place. I miss this place. And these professors. And oh my gosh, Baron Pelissier.
I'm not familiar.
I can't. Sorry, guys. I just get so passionate about.
I know.
So these are the people. These are the brilliant professors who poured into me, and they paved the way for me to become a professor. They paved a way for me to take on what was next. When I left Cal State, I ended up, it's still wild to me. I still can't believe it. I never thought it happened to me. I received a full ride teaching fellowship at Loyola Marymount for my master's. But it's because, again, of what these professors poured into me, not only in terms of grades and academics, but affirming in me, I'm good at this. I
absolutely.
I knew I was meant for this, but now I get to really know and be affirmed by those who really know that I was meant for this. Teaching, studying literature. I'm so grateful for them.
It's great to have confidence placed in you, especially when you're doing something like, getting an English degree.
Yes.
Or
being an artist.
When you're passionate about something, and then you have others that are maybe a little further down the road, like they're like shepherds, or they're basically they can pour into you with wisdom. Yeah. And so that I feel the same way about various professors. So.
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing. Oh my gosh. And I know that you did, you were a professor here for a little bit too.
Just a minute. I think it was technically peer mentor. And that, again, all credit to Braun Pelissier. She's she's a total hero. There was this whole interview and application process in order to become a peer mentor. And so as an undergraduate student, I got to be paired with Braun, and we co-instructed a first year seminar sort of class. Okay. But having that on my resume, I personally believe is what landed me the full ride teaching fellowship at Loyola Marymount. Having that on my resume ended up leading me into a 7-year profession of being a professor and director in higher ed. Yeah.
And I feel like that's an example of the beauty of networking.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in post-secondary collegial career. So.
And just the first moment where you're believed in. First moment you're given a leg up.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's
100%.
It really is. It really is encouraging.
It changes everything.
It's inspiring. It spurs you on.
Thanks, Braun.
Yeah, my goodness. Well, I wanted jump straight into GoldScriptCo because this is
love
your
talking about
your dream, your baby. What is GoldScriptCo? And we'll talk about it.
Yay, what's GoldScriptCo? It's, oh my gosh, I love my job. I just say it every day. So grateful. And I loved my job as a professor. And now that I get to, just carry on GoldScriptCo. So GoldScriptCo started as a little Etsy shop, y'all. So yes, I'm a poet, but I also do watercolor paintings, and I do typewriter poetry, and I do embroidery. So when I was in my PhD program,
creative.
I can't help it. It gets me through. So when I was in my PhD program at Azusa Pacific University, I just started selling my art. Everyone had been waiting for me to sell my typewriter poetry, and my art. So I finally did. I was like, you know what? Why not make a little bit of extra money and pay for my textbooks that are wildly expensive?
Ooh, that's relatable.
And so I threw my art on Etsy, and I called it GoldScriptCo because everything had script in it. Even my embroidery, I put words or my own poetry into it. And so GoldScriptCo started there. But when I left my career as a professor in December of 2020, I reconnected with another CSULB alumni, and he and I were in our creative writing workshops together here.
Gosh.
So his name is Tony Acero, and I reconnected with him, and he again brought out the best in me. Because I came to him and I said, "Hey, I just left my job. That's cool. That's fine. God said it's great. I'm here for it. But I don't know what's next. I don't have anything lined up. I was just being obedient to the Lord." And but however, people have been asking me forever and ever, literally a decade at that point, to publish a book of poetry. I'm not super interested in publishing my any poetry. I'm fine throwing it on Instagram. To this day, even still. I'm super fine just putting it on Instagram and hearing back from people in that way. But I had promised I would always, just appease people and say, okay, if I ever have time, I'll publish a book of poetry. I quit my job. I had time. So I reached out to Tony and I was like, you've self-published. What do I do? He read my poetry and he's like, Alexa, you have enough for like 3 books of poetry.
Wow.
I have enough for 3 books of poetry. We should start a publishing company and publish our books under our own name.
Oh my God.
So that's actually how it started. It was his idea, but we did take, my existing name of GoldScriptCo.
Yes.
So he and I kind of launched, this together. And then the Lord took Tony into reprioritizing some other aspects of his life.
Okay.
So then he's like, I actually got to go.
But you're going to take over.
I carried on GoldScriptCo. And so now what it is, it's still a publishing company. From there, however, I have expanded it to editing services and writing coaching services as well.
Wow.
Yes.
So those are actually more my primary services at this point, editing and coaching. And I still publish maybe like 1 or 2 books a year.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yes.
All right. Hold that thought for a second because we got our next host coming in. She was running a little bit late due to traffic. So we'll be right back in 1 second.
Okay.
And we're back. Sorry about that, everyone. So we're joined here by another host. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Valentin Gonzalez.
Yay.
I am part of the MFA Poetry Program, as well with Lexi, and I'm also part of LitMag with everyone else.
Yes.
All righty. So we were just talking about your was it publishing company? Is it what it is technically?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's publishing, editing, coaching. Yeah.
Right.
All the good stuff.
And so I think that goes great into this question about like how you offer a plethora of services. And it's just so beautiful. Like when foundations and like companies become something that are multi-layered. And so, for instance, you offer writing and book coaching, supporting authors. Like I really want to emphasize that you really support authors. Like you're such an encourager, and then students and professionals all over. I already know like you're equipped for this, but like what inspired you to serve in this way? And what has the experience been partnering with other authors, other people in their writing pursuits?
Ooh, lovely. Y'all, I just love talking about this. I love authors. I love artists. And okay, so something else that I really appreciate, again, shout out to the people who have just pulled out the best in me and reflected it back to me. And I realized like that's what I'm meant to do as well. But how beautiful to have someone do it in you in order to, continue on and do it for others. So that's what Tony, again, little shout out to my friend Tony. That's what he did was he said, Alexa, like you just left your job being a professor, but you are not going to stop pouring into, that young adult generation, that. And he said, you're not going to stop building platforms for them. So why not do it through a publishing company? Why not do it in that way? As I ventured into building up this publishing company and what it could and should look like, I also found that when I received manuscripts, they weren't ready for publishing. And I found my desire, exactly what Tony said, to build them up and to pour in, help them fill the gaps, help pull out the best in them in their writing and reflect it back to them so that they could further develop it and bring the manuscript to be publishing ready. And so I realized, excuse me, I am capable to do that with them.
That's what a good editor does.
Yes,
That's the whole job.
absolutely. So Before, GoldScriptCo was originally birthed as publishing only, but I found myself so organically drawn, to playing the editor and coaching role. And so that's where I expanded my services. Was they need someone who wants to do this with them, like quite genuinely. And I want to come alongside any author from the earliest stages or the most developed stages and to be like, cool, what do you need? How can I help you? And start building that platform with and for them.
It's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah. Val, did you have any?
Yeah. Well, I was actually really interested about also the name GoldScriptCo because I was reading a few other interviews you had, and you said it was first an Etsy shop.
Yes, she
We're just-
shared that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I just kind of want to know, like, what was the idea of, because it was already like a multimedia business that you had, what was inspiration to continue that name for your publishing company?
To carry it over.
Yeah. So I did pray on that actually, and I had already built up kind of an association with between me and GoldScriptCo. Like, people remembered the name. It was catchy enough where people across campus where I used to teach, or even my own friends and family, they'd be like, how's GoldScriptCo? So it was catchy enough and memorable. And so I did pray on it to kind of ask God, like, is this the fit for what you're birthing next in and through me? And it was a yes. And I appreciate that GoldScriptCo. The word script is what I really anchor to, because everything I do draws back to writing, even if I do watercolor art, even if I do embroidery, because I was still kind of figuring out, like, what am I meant to do now that I've left being a professor. But no matter what, everything comes back to me being a poet and writer. I incorporate poetry in painting and in, multimedia, like you said. So script is what's there, and gold, I don't know. It's just what God gave me.
Like a gold outlining, like, kind of like the gold leaf of, like, just like an embellishment. But, like, script is the core of the name.
And co is company.
Heck yeah.
English major, I figured
And
it out.
because you're so team oriented, co just always reminds me of, like, co-partnering, co-team. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think the gold too kind of reflects back to, again, bringing out the best in people. It's what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you then I just had a thought about, like, multimedia art, specifically like pairing of poetry or writing with another piece of art. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Because I was recently reading a poem by Victoria Chang that was paired with a piece of art, I think, by Edward Hopper. And I don't know. That kind of thing is very interesting to me, how you compare poetry with a piece of art or another piece of media.
I think of it I love it. I mean, because I think every medium of art is so unique in its design. And how can other mediums enhance each other in a collective way? Like, I mean, painting does not do the same thing as poetry, and poetry doesn't do the same thing as that. So it's like when they come together, I like to use the word enhance. They enhance each other. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I think it's also really exciting because as we are also, like, advancing in technology and advancing in how we utilize, like, different mediums, it is, to me, only natural to want to combine or have the curiosity to combine different art together. I was, like, over the weekend at a brunch, and I was talking to someone who was studying game design, and I was about, like, poetry and the digital media. And it turns out, I mean, I don't know which games exactly, but I know that there's a lot of indie games that actually incorporate poetry within their spaces, whether it's in the dialogue or they'll find, like, hints and match up the hints or, like, letters, and then they'll match it up and combine as one collective poem. And so, like, it's already I think it's so great, and especially in our, like, digital space, and as well as we are already 2025, like, who knows what poetry can be in 2040, in the 3000, you know what I mean? And so I think it's really cool. I think it's just a great way it shows progression, evolution in the art.
On that note, I have to say I'm such an old, I definitely hear what you're saying, Val. I think I'll always forever be, like, an old soul when it comes to, like, loving cursive writing. And, like, the word script, I guess, like, like inscriptions.
I
Like,
cannot read
so I hope
cursive.
that never disappears.
I can barely.
I don't know if it's still being taught.
It is.
Anyways,
I
so-
was just a bad student.
you know, Alexa, maybe you know.
In my logo, the word script is my handwriting. Like, I designed,
That's a nice handwriting.
Oh,
my
thank
gosh.
you.
We never can lose handwriting. So I definitely hear that there's so many, like, just connections that are being made with
I
multimedia.
think poetry also in a way already kind of exists everywhere. I think there's an idea that
say more.
Right, there's an idea that poetry is the thing that only exists in like a poetry book in your aunt's bathroom, or what have you, or like it's
are
like
you saying it's more so you can experience poetry?
Yeah, but if you really think about it, like what is poetry? It's kind of hard to define, but I mean you have an idea of it's like a couple words on a page, it evokes meaning. But if it's words that evoke meaning, there's words that evoke meaning everywhere. I don't know. And I feel like, I don't know, I think people, I don't know, I mean, I'll speak for myself because I don't like to speak for others, but for myself, I think I went a large portion of my life without really thinking about poetry. You know?
I'm pretty sure it was Seaburn who said a lot of the writing is done off the page. And what she means, I think that maybe connects to what you're saying. Because like, if I see a gorgeous multicolored sunset, that's poetry.
Yeah.
And then I'll transmute it onto the page. Like, that's just an example.
Yeah.
But like, that's one way to think about it.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's also up for interpretation to any individual. What is poetry to them?
Absolutely. It has so many meanings.
I feel like it's kind of, if you think about it in this way, then it's kind of omnipresent, right? I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree with everything, that each of you have said in terms of, I find myself thinking kind of poetically too, but it's because I give my brain the space. So I never have the TV on. I never listen to music. That's weird. I get it. Judge me. It's fine. But I don't watch things. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't listen to music. I give my brain the space. And I find that I'm able to hear myself. And sometimes my thoughts end up just writing into poetry. Again, but y'all know it's my process. Like poetry is my processing, my wrestling. It's my daily, my daily unfolding. In terms of multimedia, though, to like re-anchor it to your original question, for me, it's just simply a matter of, it allows me to reach a larger audience. So when I have poetry, again, like I write and then I read it, I'm like, oh, this was for me. I've released it. Now it might be for someone else. I wrote this for me, but also for you is the series name. And then I realize I can turn this into art in case someone needed it on their wall or in case, so it kind of became more of like, and also art helps me continue to release and process. So turning it into something all the more beautiful and accessible.
So do you pair your poems? Like if you make a watercolor, you'll write a poem for it or vice versa?
Oh my gosh, actually, fun fact. So I brought a little something because Lexi invited me here. So this is actually an example. I have a watercolor painting here and I wrote my poetry on it. Or this one has my I have like an old school typewriter. So shout out to you in handwriting and typewriting.
Yes.
So I typed a poem with typewriter and scanned it onto my watercolors. This is a drawing with my handwriting poetry. So it was a thank you. I'm so sorry. I didn't. Okay, here we are. I'll bring more.
Yeah,
Snail mail.
So when you do multimedia, is like the process of creating visual art similar to the process of writing for you?
Ooh, fabulous question. No. So writing is me. Writing is me and God. And everything else is more communal. So I used to host, and we're going to jump back in, y'all. I just randomly got kids. It's a super great journey. We're fostering and adopting. And pre-kids, before November of last year, I hosted monthly artist socials at my home. And so art is more communal for me. I want like 10 people around my kitchen table and we're all doing our own art.
One of the things I said you enjoy, like making delicious food and opening your home to host people in warm gatherings. I've seen it, and I
like warm gatherings.
Yes. Well, we love the open door, policy at our home when we pastor young adults. So I have a huge heart for college students, age 18 and up, and so we just always have our home open to anyone. But so I like people around my table when I do other artwork.
I love that. Back to that personal intimacy of writing and then also the communal aspect of sharing it. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
It's like breaking bread at a table. Breaking bread of art. What else do you want to go to? I know I'm looking at the time. We have about like 10 minutes left, but we're going to really use this because I also wanted to ask if you'd be willing to read a favorite poem of yours before we end.
Sure. Yes, I can.
Yes, if you want to.
Yeah, I can. Let's see. I grabbed my little chat book, which I'll also leave with y'all. So I mentioned earlier that I was never, ever interested in publishing my poetry. However, when I started the publishing company, I didn't want to sign on an author and learn with them and their poetry. So I did produce a little chapbook of my own poetry. This is very likely all I will ever publish for myself. Happy to share my poetry, on social media and such, but this is very likely what this is for
You're
me.
so humble.
And I'd rather just, again, platform and push out everyone else's book. Like, that's my heart. I want everyone else published. So this is a little chapbook that it was the very first publication through GoldScriptCo. It's called Dear Girl. It's a collection of my poetry and drawings. So
And drawings.
yeah, and drawings too. So it's just a mini collection about my journey of healing, y'all. I have been through deep healing. I spent 9 years in debilitating depression, like severe depression. 9 years in depression until February 13th, 2013. I was here in Long Beach in my last year at Cal State Long Beach, and the Lord miraculously, instantaneously healed me from 9 years of depression.
Amen.
Yeah, and haven't been depressed since. Doesn't make sense. It runs in my family. I was never on meds. Like, should have been on meds, never on meds. So, like, it was truly miraculous. Never been depressed since.
That's great. I need that for my knee. It kind of clicks every time I squat down.
God can do it. He sure
Yes,
can.
yes.
He's a healer. And so from there, just the journey, because there's layers of healing. And so this collection reviewed the healing and also like exploration of identity. I'm a mixed girl. I'm Mexican and German. And so
beautiful.
this collection is about identity, which is in the healing way and the deep way, but also the cultural way. So every poem in here is either titled Dear Girl or Dear Mixed Girl. And so I'm exploring the healing, the empowerment, the identity. And so I drew pictures of women I know and love, including some of my past students, including my friends, including people like mentors. So I wanted to include the women in my life in this collection of women empowerment and such. So I don't know if this would be my favorite poem, but it's a poem that I'll read and then leave this little book for y'all.
That is so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I think that through the depression, I was harsh and I was cold and I was hardened, and it was really beautiful to find my way into softening and defrosting, and then kind of rebuilding and confidence, y'all. Like, you could hear me talk super confidently all day long now. Like, I know what I'm good at. I know who I am. I know where I still need to grow and heal. Confidence was not a thing, before the Lord healed me. I mean, how can you be confident while severely depressed and suicidal? I don't know if that's a thing. So, but confidence now. So this is part of that journey into softening and then, kind of embracing that delicacy and vulnerability. And it's a beautiful thing. Staying soft is a beautiful thing. So, girl, you are beautiful and delicate. I know sometimes you feel the spaces between your fingers are hollowed faults for the world to fill or frown on. With soft, strong hands, I know you carry wishbones. Let me restart, y'all. I think I skipped a line there. I'm so sorry.
Beautiful.
It was heck. Why not? Let's restart. Okay, sorry. Girl, you are beautiful and delicate. I know sometimes you feel the spaces between your fingers are hollowed faults for the world to frown on but never fill with soft, strong hands. I know you carry wishbones scattered inside your skeleton, fearing the ones who will come and break them just to leave with the bigger pieces. I know that delicacy feels like you're carrying a double-edged sword, perceived as beautiful, even vulnerable, yet always wondering how close you are to breaking. But delicacy has become a rarity in this world, and darling, you wear it beautifully.
Wow,
That was beautiful.
Ooh, ooh. No, thank you. Plenty more in here. I'm going to leave that with y'all.
Thank you so much, Alexa. The message that resounded through that piece for me too, I just think that like you foreshadowed it so well, like this theme of like embracing softness when the world is really rough. Hard-heartedness can be such a like easy thing to adopt when we are where we go through the blender of getting bruised and beaten. I mean, metaphorically and physically, whatever we go through. But you're encouraging like this, whoever that girl is that you're speaking to, you're like speaking life over her to say like, that's not a weakness. Softness, though it may be perceived by the world as a weakness, is a strength.
That's why I stay so soft in the middle.
Yeah, okay. Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Goodness
much.
gracious.
Inviting me to.
Could I ask one more question
Yes, please
before
do.
we head out? Well, with like those poems and just the idea of softness, I was wondering if there's anything that comes up for you, like culturally, as being like Mexican American. I
Yeah.
know for me as like Latinidad, softness is very like a different factor, and it's kind of like a complicated relationship with softness with femininity and being Latina and like what that means really.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good question. Can we have another hour?
Oh my gosh.
That's a great question. Yes, something I'm super grateful for is my PhD program, and it created so much space for me to write this type of poetry. And I mean, now I kind of wish I read a mixed girl, poem in here. And it's been so interesting in my combo of cultures to embrace like the beauties, the strengths, the delicacies of the nuances of both, and to not say I'm 50% this and I'm wholly Mexican. I'm wholly German and English, and I get to be all that. And in terms of like, yeah, I would say that there are some family members who very much play certain roles or hold up certain standards and that are culturally influenced. And it has been a very interesting journey as I've clung to the Lord in asking, like, which ones of those are me and which are not, and which do I get to shed or soften, lessen or enhance. And I spent, I think, like 2 decades of my life not crying. And that, points to, again, depression and trauma and such. But I spent 2 decades not crying. And so asking God, like, how do I do that? How do I let myself do that? Crying wasn't, that was a form of weakness. That was a sign of weakness. Like how it was also honestly something I claimed in terms of survival mode. Just like, don't cry. Because if you start crying, I don't know where else,
Then like, when does it stop?
Right. Yeah. Because there's so much built up.
Even numbness can creep in. It's like,
yes. Oh, and it sure did. And so, yeah, having to just continuously come before the Lord, lay myself out and be like, okay, what needs to be softened today? What needs to be healed deeper today? And it was a layering process. But yeah, the cultural, like evaluating my culture and my people and what I get to hold and empower and shine the beauty, from the inside out and hold that and let that be a part of me. It can still be soft, and that there's strength in that softness, but it took a minute. Yeah.
Yes.
That's like a very abstract way to answer your question.
A beautiful spirit, Alexa.
So I appreciate you.
You've mentioned the Lord multiple times, so I want to make space for this because you've expressed your beautiful relationship with Jesus today. How has your faith informed your creative writing work, even life, even fostering that you pursue, like every avenue?
Yes, everything. Yeah, I include, I'm kind of, I'm the girl who's just chatting to Jesus all day, every day, just like, oh God, pretty flower, good job on that one, I'm just always talking to God. And I don't listen to music, so on my 40-minute drive back home, no, I really don't, unless it's worship music, because but I'm usually just singing without even the worship music on. I'll just sing it all myself. But
good silence.
Yeah, I got a tattoo. It took 5 hours. Sat there in silence the whole time. Wow. 5 hours of silence. My friend was like, "Are you insane? Like, actually,
silence
like, are you
speaks.
crazy?" I just silence makes me feel safe.
Silence to me sounds like tinnitus, but
oh, that's a thing for some people. But yeah, for me, it's safety. I think coming from a very like loud home, like silence is kind of security.
It's nice.
Yeah,
it's peaceful.
Yeah,
it's peaceful.
It is for me, and it's okay if it's not, for others. But yeah, so I'll chat with God the whole 40 minutes back home, and then also let my mind like go wherever it needs to go for my processing poetry. But I also, in terms of GoldScriptCo, I ask God like, do you want me to sign this contract? Do you want me to write up this? So every author that comes to me and asks like, can you publish my book or can we enter? My answer is yes. Again, I love my job. And I'm so
I
grateful
witnessed
too.
that firsthand because I didn't mention this, but I'll mention it really quick. Before I even got into the MFA program, guys, I sent you my first manuscript.
Wow. Oh, yes.
Remember, it was my full one. I was wanting to publish it, but I will say this is the learning process, and I'm so grateful for you, Alexa. It was called Eternal Return, and it was all about the journey of coming home. And I remember you were so methodical and personal in partnering with me. But had it been published at that time, it wasn't ready. And thank you, because I'm happy. Like, you shared that it wasn't. Yes, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. Okay.
And it was like, I needed to hear that. It needs to be put through a pause in revision, and God answered that. And like, so thank you for not letting it be published. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
That I totally forgot. I'm not only remembering that, but I'm also remembering. So, Alexis, I received your manuscript, and I was like, okay, like, yes, like, we could do this.
Yes,
we could shape this into a publishable manuscript. It's already, it's there, and I have, vision that I could partner with you and see if it fits for you. And I wrote out this email saying yes. I literally wrote you an email saying, yes, I'll publish this in, like, I don't know, summer 2025. This was like a year ago or something.
Yeah, it was like a year or two ago.
Yes, and I put the date. I put the season and the year of when I was willing to publish it. The Lord did not give me peace. I had zero peace. Yeah. And I kept trying to force the peace because I was like, I like her poetry. Like, what the heck, God? And so I finished the whole email, and I was like, God, you're still saying no, but I don't agree with you.
Well, you know what? He told me it wasn't ready.
Well, yeah, he didn't let me have peace and release to send that email. So I sat on it on 2 days. Sorry to keep you waiting, but I sat on it.
I needed to.
Because then I needed to wrestle with the Lord. I was like, God, why are we not agreeing? Because you are right, but I'm not ready for you to be right because I want to publish her because I like her. And again, I didn't get the peace. So then I had to delete that email and rewrite an email that said, I can't. And I told you I couldn't because God said
that because you care so much about the manuscripts you receive, and like you telling me that it wasn't the time, like from the Lord, of course. It was what I needed to hear, because now I'm in the process of the MFA degree, building a new and it just feels it's better timing.
Yeah.
So,
so
back
good.
to how you lead people so well.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, God opens and closes doors, and He knows the timing, and so I'm super yielded to that, because when I've tried to do things my own way, that's funny. Yeah. That hasn't turned out cute. So I've learned.
Oh my goodness. Well, I know I want to spend more time talking. I know it's 10. Is there anything last minute you guys want to say before we close out for now? We'll have to do a part 2.
Know. I did have a thought earlier, but you were talking about how the idea of mixed ancestry influences your poem in some way, the intersectionality of that. And I just thought of Frida Kahlo, because I know she wrote about that quite a bit, and that was a big influence on her poetry. Do you relate to her at all, or?
Ooh,
she was a painter too.
She was a painter too.
Yeah,
a very famous one at that.
So right now, I would like to revisit her poetry before responding to that, because I don't just want to throw out like a yes, of course, but her poetry is not fresh on my mind. I know I've read it. Her, even her paintings are coming fresh to mind, but I would want to revisit her writing before I give you a definitive answer, because I don't want to claim like, yes, I resonate without like fully meaning it. I have other authors on my mind, so I don't want to blend.
Yes, so I want to make space. That's like a last question we had. Like, which artists or authors are inspiring you right now?
Ooh.
Like to throw out to the listeners.
Okay. I would say... I want to say my authors, like the authors I'm working with. Well, oh my gosh, I could talk about them all day, every day.
You could shout them out.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I can and I can't, because we're in the process, So we're waiting for release days. We're waiting for contracts to close out. But right now I'm editing like a sci-fi manuscript and a Christian manuscript and a poetry manuscript, and I'm working on publishing. What are we, like a dystopian fantasy, cool. And then publishing a Christian manuscript. So I'm editing a whole chunk of manuscripts, working on pushing out, publishing some. So shout out to them, because something that I just am in awe of, by every single day, is that these authors are prioritizing their writing.
Absolutely.
There are so many writers out there who don't actually prioritize being a writer. I mean, hi, me. Like I'm helping everyone else prioritize being a writer, but the only poetry I've been writing lately is poetry to my son, our kids, our foster kiddos, and again, heading towards adoption. Yay, thank you, God. Yes. That's the only poetry I've been writing lately, is just whenever I look at him, like poetry starts writing, but I'm not really prioritizing my craft. So shout out to the authors who, every time that someone hires me as a writing coach or editor, I literally like clap and cheer on our call, and I'm like, you like, this is huge. Like, you just hired a writing coach. You are prioritizing what you're made to do. Like, this is huge. And
It is.
And so I just cheer them on. That's a huge step. That's a huge investment. It's a huge priority. Artists that I would shout out, I would love to shout out Sandra. Okay, so they're my friends. They're the people who come to my artist
they're
socials.
locals, we want to hear them.
And watching them pursue their full-time artistry is so beyond like inspiring. So Sandra Curatori, holy cow, way too. She's also my book designer, my book cover designer.
Whoa.
She is way too talented. It's ridiculous. Aja De La Rosa, her business is called That High Five Life, and her her art is incredible. She's an art teacher, high school art teacher too. And Shannon Kim, oh my gosh, look at her website. It's stupid. It's like ridiculously amazing. She's so talented. M's Greenhouse. Like, I have so many artist friends, and I just want to shout them out because yes, there's a whole list of other like well-known professional, and these people are professional too, of course. But in terms of like well-known universally artists that we all could claim, but the people who I get to see, like in the endurance and in the perseverance of living their life as an artist and doing what they're made to do and sharing it with the world. Oh my gosh, I'm their biggest fans.
I can tell. That's amazing. And you know who I was thinking of too? Ashley Kendall Jones.
Yes, amen. She was her and Cleo DeVitas were our last published authors. Yes, so those who I've published already. Oh my gosh, shout out to them. Derek Ongoy, Emma Gaisley, and so on. Catherine H. Ross. Oh my, y'all, can we just have a party? Can we just invite them all here?
Just throwing out all these names. It's a party.
Can we just do a book reading real quick?
I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, we want to genuinely thank you, Alexa, for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
being
much.
our last guest of the spring semester. And thank you all for listening.
All right, this is RipRapYap signing out. I'll edit that out.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.